Hey, welcome to Pillar of Garbage. Today, we're back talking about Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and the inspired depiction that show gives us of the classic Marvel villain Kang the Conqueror. Now, if you've no idea what I'm talking about, there's a card you can click on screen now with a link to my Earth's Mightiest Heroes playlist, where you can get introduced to the show or watch the first video on Kang from last week. In that video, I talked about how the show introduces this character, and how from the start it focuses on his human side. But we're going to move on now to how this character matches up against our titular heroes, the Avengers. And quick side note, I know I said last week that I'd start work on this video when the previous one hit 1,000 likes. At the time, that seemed like a reasonable ask based on the stats of my earlier videos on the show. It hasn't happened yet. I think the algorithm is starting to drop my channel, but I decided to crack on with the follow-up anyway, because it's not fair that my viewers suffer because of the YouTube algorithm's fickle and capricious whims. And also, because I couldn't wait any longer to carry on with the series. So we learned that Kang, a warlord from the future, had come back to the 21st century to defeat Captain America, because Cap's presence in the modern day alters the time stream and destroys Kang's reality. And when our heroes are met by Kang, it becomes painfully apparent just how possible this defeat looks. Kang is a major threat, but any show can create a warrior from the future with advanced lasers. Earth's Mightiest Heroes is a show that nails character like few others, and what it does so well in this Kang confrontation is this sense of character. This isn't just some generic guy from the future, he is a ruler of unparalleled power, and the gravitas that voice actor Jonathan Adam brings to this role fits perfectly. He speaks in these slow, regal sentences. You never once question that this is the voice of a ruler, accustomed to power. But as good as the performance is, the script is equally laudable. This Kang is dismissive and, well, snobbish. He has the mother of all superiority complexes, except that he doesn't just think he's better than everyone else in the room, he knows he is. I mean, this idea isn't helped by the less than stellar impression the Hulk gives of 21st century intelligence.
Stupid future man!
Imagine how you'd speak to a peasant from 1,000 years ago. This is Kang's demeanor the whole time. Even his subordinates refer to the inhabitants of Earth, you know, us, as natives.
Did the natives surrender?
They did not.
To Kang, he is civilized, and the Avengers, us, we're all barbarians to him. This dynamic plays out in a few fun ways, like the way he calls Hawkeye Archer. Moments like these mean Kang's language feels genuinely anachronistic. Which fits, you know, because he's a time traveler and all that. This futuristic superiority complex then doesn't just make you hate the character, in fact you start to believe him, especially when he transports the Avengers to the future and proves to them that he isn't lying. Naturally, we the viewers are taken along for the ride, and we too see the truth to his claims. Earth does get destroyed, and judging from the fragments of culture that we see dotted about this dystopia, Kang isn't lying that this happens soon. This is an effect which only grows in retrospect. I've talked previously about the way this show threads the roots for future plotlines well in advance, and without spoiling anything, the events to which Kang alludes in this episode grow in significance substantially, and remain in play until the very end of the show. In fact, this is another meta moment from the show. Kang is here telling the Avengers about this disaster because he's afraid of the butterfly effect, the actions of Captain America rippling into the future and destroying the Earth. And on a narrative level, this exact threat ripples out in a similar way, from being teased in moments like this in the show's first season to becoming the main driving force for the second season's plot. But this show's Kang is also great because of how he drives the Avengers. They say a story is only as good as its villain, and I would extend this a little. An Avengers team is only as good as their villain, or at least, we the audience only get to see the Avengers operating at their highest level when they're against a really great villain. So we have our heroes facing up against the problems Kang poses, both physical and moral. Physically, Kang's technology and power level is ridiculously advanced and almost insurmountable. And morally, the Avengers don't know if resisting is even the right thing to do. If giving up Steve will really save the future, then maybe that's the right call. This leads into a really great Cap moment, where Steve offers to sacrifice himself for the good of the world, placing the decision in Tony's hands.
If I really am responsible for all this,
I have to stand down. There's too much at stake. But the rest of the world... It's your decision, Tony.
And the reason this works so well is that despite the super soldier serum and the vibranium shield, I think Captain America as a character works best when his true superpower is not his physical attributes, but his moral strength. This moment shows the purity of his character, his selflessness, as well as the faith he has in others. Captain America, from his very origins, was always a representation of idealism. He is a character whose real strength is in the way he lifts up those around him and acts as the team's moral center. And when the team is pushed to their limits, like in this moment, we see the core strengths and truths at the heart of each character, and Steve's offer of self-sacrifice, mirroring the fate he chose 70 years before, gives us that for Captain America. But this doesn't just happen to Captain America. Ant-Man has a similar moment, stopping Kang from escaping not through his giant size, but through his unique mind. You see, while the rest of the team sees a lifeless husk of a planet, Hank sees a place where cockroaches could still survive and uses his tech to call upon them at a key moment. Black Panther gets his chance to shine too, sneaking up on Kang in a key moment. From when the Avengers begin to fight back against Kang, we have these tracking shots on each of them as they attack one by one, Hulk leaping in, Hawkeye firing an arrow, etc. But we don't see anything like this for Black Panther the whole time. He disappears, vanishing not only from Kang's view, but from ours too. And this carries on until suddenly the camera zooms in like a predator catching its prey, and we cut to a yet unseen Black Panther getting the drop on Kang, a pretty rare feat. If you've seen the last video, you'll remember how I talked about dramatic irony, and how it allows us to experience Kang's power set on a metatextual level. The way Black Panther remains unshown until now allows us to experience his amazing stealth in a similar way. In epic poetry, particularly ancient Greek epic like Homer's Iliad, there's a type of scene called an aristeia, and this is a type of scene where, in the midst of battle, a particular hero reaches their peak, operates at the highest possible level, a sort of glorious rampage where we see one character in particular at their absolute best. One of the reasons I love this Kang episode is because it does a similar thing. Faced with such a threat, the Avengers are forced to pull everything out of the bag, and when they're forced to operate on this highest possible level, we see what makes them great. Cap's moral strength, Ant-Man's mind, Black Panther's stealth, but maybe the best example of this is Iron Man's Aristeia type moment. While the rest of the team takes a beating to keep the Conqueror distracted, Tony is trying to hijack the time machine chair that he arrived on. It's all ridiculously advanced future technology, of course, but Iron Man finds an ingenious way in, and it ties into the thematic heart of the episode. You see, before Kang shows up, the Avengers are having a pretty normal day, joking around. There's even one line I literally just got.
Well, the newspaper calls you a futurist, and unless you're into Italian art, I'm not entirely sure what that is.
But yeah, normal day at Avengers Mansion. Steve's even trying to teach Tony how to fight hand to hand. Of course, Tony doesn't see the point. He's the self-styled futurist after all. If he wants to beat someone up, he'll just put on his robo-suit and do it that way. But Cap tells him the old ways are just as important. Those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. Even the ways of the future are built upon those of the past. So Tony can fight in his suit all he wants, but underpinning his abilities the whole time is basic old-fashioned martial arts. And this comes full circle as Tony realizes that this wondrous technology of tomorrow is all built upon the foundations of Stark tech. Tony finally realizes that an understanding of the past is necessary to understand the future, and it's because Kang hasn't realized this that he's left this vulnerability in the system which Tony can exploit to bring the team home. So Kang also reveals Tony's true power, and it's not his suit, it's his mind and his futurism, which he uses to recognize the 1,000-year-old logic in Kang's systems and save the day. Look, I'm not a time-traveling software engineer, I don't know how realistic this plot point is, but on a purely narrative level, it's a great moment. But here's the thing, despite all these coup de grace, Aristeia moments from the Avengers, despite these heroes being forced to pull literally everything out of the bag, every one of their strengths, they can't beat Kang. They barely come close. Kang disappears back to his ship, where he readies an armada, which will go on to invade the world easily in the next episode. But speaking of next episodes, I really started writing this video in the hopes of covering both this episode and the next two, which conclude the Kang story, at least for the time being. But I think looking at how long this is already, that squashing another 2 episodes into this video would be a disservice to the episodes, so I think there'll have to be a 3rd video on EMH's Kang. Let me know below if you'd rather see that straight away, or if you'd rather I move on to other episodes and characters for the time being. Otherwise, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing if you want to see more stuff like this. And as always, thanks for watching.